Hello and welcome to the Diamond Report for Tuesday, May 23rd, 2017. This is your host, Doug Diamond. It's currently 10:38 p.m. and we're looking at Earthquake 3D, the last 48 hours worth of earthquakes globally. And I wanted to show you this well-defined North American craton edge. And I keep talking about this, and of course this is originally from Dutch Sense, who put this together. I'm not taking credit for it, but it is true. If you look at the earthquakes that hit the United States, it follows a certain pattern. And generally the pressure transfers from the west coast eastward, and it goes along the edge, the interior edge of the North American craton. And if you look at these earthquakes right through here, through the middle part of the country, in this sort of U shape, you'll see them there, and you can see it a little bit better if I turn the rings down, probably. It goes right down through here, and right back up through here. And if you look at the North American craton, here it is right here, this brown mass, this says continental crust that has remained relatively stable for the past 600 million years. Anyway, there it is, you see it, and this is the interior edge right here, and we often see earthquakes right around this edge, and that's what this diagram over here is showing you. This is a screenshot from Dutch Sense. He's showing how these earthquakes here, I don't know how old these are, but this is from a while ago most likely, how these three spots here sort of correspond to these three spots here. Just as an example, but going back to the map today, you can see that it definitely follows that same edge. So what happens is we'll get a larger earthquake out here along the coast, either off the coast or along California, along Oregon, or Washington, or even up in Canada, and that pressure will transfer. It'll lose a magnitude as it goes from west to east, but it will transfer from west to east. So I think it's pretty interesting just how it works, and Dutch Sense is the person, that, as far as I know, that discovered that. It seems to be proving itself over and over that that's exactly what happens. Okay, as far as the earthquake update today, probably keep it short. Try and keep it a little shorter than normal even. However, not lots of new movement, and certainly no new 6s to report. There's the one from yesterday that I mentioned. At Japan, we do have some new movement here, deep quakes in the Western Pacific. Those are 5s though. But again, they're deep 5s, which will usually translate to shallow, larger movement in adjacent silent zones. And looking at this, we have a huge silent zone right here. That's what, when I say silent zone, that's what I mean. There's normally pressure being released through here, and right now we have a big silent zone in that area. If I turn the rings down, you can see, you know, this area of the, I guess it'd be the eastern Solomon Islands, that's the next place it's going to move. That's open there, and also over here in Vanuatu. There's no quakes at all in those two areas, and that's where we're going to expect further movement. So we'll just watch for that over the next couple of days, and we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to the headlines. ISIS claim responsibility for suicide bomb attack that killed 22, including children and parents, and injured 119 at Ariana Grande gig in Manchester. And as I said last night, ISIS is living up to what they said, and that they said that London would be next on their hit list, and that seems to be proving to be the case. Trump blasts attacker who killed 22 people at the UK Ariana Grande concert as an evil loser whose ideologies must be completely obliterated. Well, in order to completely obliterate those ideologies, you would have to completely obliterate Islam, because whoever did that is a direct follower of Muhammad and his teachings and what Islam teaches. The real Islam, not the fake Islam that the heretical, peaceful Muslims follow. Okay? Not the Meccan version of Islam. These people are Medinan. They follow the Medina version of Islam, which means violence. The Medinan version is a later part of the Quran, and because of that, because it's later in the Quran, it abrogates the part before that, which is the more peaceful Meccan version, okay? So the later version of the Quran is more important and has more weight, if you will, than the peaceful first earlier versions. So that's why you get these people that argue with you and tell you, no, Islam is a religion of peace, because they're looking at the early things that were written in the Quran when Muhammad was in Mecca. But that is abrogated by what was written later by Muhammad when he was in Medina, which is the violent part of the scriptures. And even though they're both true, it's called dualism. They're both true. The Meccan version is true, but the Medinan version is true as well, and it's given more weight because it's later, if that makes sense. So I don't think Trump understands that. He doesn't know that radical Islamic people that are doing these attacks like this are just doing what they've been told and what they've been taught to do. They're like program bots that these imams or imams go out there and tell them to do this kind of stuff, and they believe they're really going to go to heaven if they take out as many kafirs and unbelievers and people who won't convert to Islam that they can. That's the goal. I don't think Trump gets that. And more about the suicide bomber. Suicide bomber who slaughtered 22 was known to police and was caught on CCTV. Details of attacker emerge as arrests are made across Manchester over arena massacre. ISIS supporters celebrate Manchester terror attack after Twitter user, quote, predicted the blast 4 hours before the explosion. Quote, people's skin and blood were everywhere. I'm still finding bits of God knows what in my hair. End quote. Manchester arena terror attack survivors tell of their horror. CBS reports suspected Manchester attacker is 23-year-old Salman Abedi. Terror in Manchester, 3,500 potential terrorists and 400 ISIS fighters back from Syria in the UK. North Korea war threat. South Korea forced to fire at missile sent across the border. It's on the Express. Trump seeks historic $3.6 trillion in spending cuts, including selling half of U.S. strategic oil reserve. That's on Zero Hedge. ISIS supporters celebrate terror attack as Twitter refuses to explain why tweet predicting Manchester attack was not passed on to the police because of, quote, privacy concerns. Of course, I mean, that seems obvious. If Twitter or Facebook or any of those social media conglomerates have a heads up on something like that, they're not going to turn in the people that they are backing. And that, in this case, would be ISIS. Illinois Democrats in Senate passed 33% hike of personal and corporate income taxes. That's on Zero Hedge. American small business owner rages at politicians, quote, quit your job and try the real world. That's on Zero Hedge. I think that goes against everything they know. Once they get to Washington, that becomes the reality, and the actual reality is no more. Outrage ensues as rambling Maxine Waters has her mic cut by the Democratic Party. It's on Zero Hedge. Theresa May warns a fresh terror attack is feared to be imminent as she raises threat level to critical and orders 5,000 troops onto the streets after attack by British-born Libyan Salman Abedi. So now they have the excuse they need to put troops on the streets and start taking away innocent people's rights. It's called the Hegelian dialectic. You create the problem, you form a reaction, and then you come in with your own solution. Breaking, terror police arrest man 37 at Stansted Airport as he tried to flee to Syria. Terrorist brother arrested. Dramatic moment, armed police swoop to arrest Ismail Abedi, 23, over his siblings' arena massacre. More than 24 hours on, desperate families still search forlornly for their missing brothers, sisters, sons, and daughters who disappeared in bomb chaos. Are they killing small business? The number of self-employed Americans is lower than it was in 1990. It's by Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog. I'm self-employed. I have been since about 1997 or so, and proud of it. But they do make it very, very difficult to stay in business because you pay your income taxes and then you also pay self-employment taxes for the honor and privilege of not having an employer, because you are your own employer, so therefore you're paying more taxes. It's quite a racket they've got going, actually. Desperate liberals try to blame the Manchester terror attack on anyone other than Islamic terrorists. It's by Michael Snyder of Into the American Dream. DNC officials are panicked over Seth Rich. Podesta has nowhere to hide. That's from Dave Hodges of the Common Sense Show. Fukushima comes to America, the Hanford disaster. It's also by Dave Hodges. And from Mike Adams of Natural News, the bombings have only just begun. Progressive Western civilization is slaughtering itself by foolishly appeasing those who seek to destroy it. That is exactly what we're doing. The Republic has fallen. The deep state's plot to take over America has succeeded. And over on InfoWars, Alex Jones says, I blame Islam and the left for Manchester Arena terror attack. Absolutely. Manchester attack, what they're not telling you. Kim.com. I know Seth Rich was involved in DNC leaks. It's time to put the limited back in limited government, and abolishing the EPA is a good place to start. It's by Michael Snyder. MSNBC ruthlessly cuts to Trump coverage as Manchester victims scream in background. We'll get the latest on that in a minute, they said. That's on Daily Caller. And from Information Liberation, new Democrat Fox News host attacks, quote, Seth Rich conspiracy theorists. Post Ailes, Fox News is quickly becoming worse than MSNBC. It's really hard to imagine, but I'm sure it's true. Yes, they're using the old CIA PSYOP tactic, using the word conspiracy theorists to anybody who questions the official story on Seth Rich, which of course should be questioned, and that does not make you a conspiracy theorist, it makes you a conspiracy analyst. Leftists bemoan Islamophobia backlash on social media following Manchester terror attack. Leftists across Twitter focused on the possible spread of Islamophobia following the attack at an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester. Well, if they really understood what Islam's all about, maybe they'd reconsider, but I doubt it, because they just don't have the brain capacity to understand anything other than their ridiculous emotions they might be feeling at the moment, and worrying about hurting people's feelings instead of whether or not somebody's going to blow up a bunch of people with a homemade bomb. Buchanan calls for special prosecutor for criminal White House leaks. Trump should establish formal investigation into security leaks. It's on Pat Buchanan's website, buchanan.org. Manchester suicide bombing prompts security rethinks worldwide. Global police state strengthens in wake of terrorism. Yes, again, it's a Hegelian dialectic. They're going to use this to crack down more and more on everybody worldwide. And if you think you're going to enjoy going to a concert or a sporting event or whatever, they're going to make it as hellish as possible for anybody going to anything like that to actually enjoy it, because they will give you an anal exam anytime you walk in or walk out of the building, starting anytime very soon, most likely. Farage on Manchester. UK no longer safer than France or Belgium. Will second terror attack in 2 months shake Brits from complacency? I don't know, I have my doubts. Germany must bear consequences for EU migrant disaster, Poland says. Polish Interior Minister said migrants pose a greater risk to Poles than EU sanctions do. Roger Stone, Trump receiving award used as propaganda in Arab world. Trump's recent visit to Saudi Arabia resulted in bad optics. It certainly did. Trump's budget really could make America great again. Will Congress allow him to do it? Trump's budget would dramatically reduce the U.S. government's role in society. That right there is the reason the Congress will never let him do it. They don't want to lose any of their own power. Trump should unleash American resources, let the Middle East fight amongst themselves. A call for the U.S. to get out of Middle East affairs. I don't think we'll ever do that. The military-industrial complex has too much to lose. There's too much money and oil involved, and too many arms deals and weapons involved as well. CNN analyst says Manchester attack could be a right-wing false flag. BBC analyst says people need to get used to the attacks. Yeah, that's right. We're supposed to just live with them and not do anything about it. Yet more evidence that Trump nor Melania have any idea what Islam's all about. Melania Trump hails empowerment of women at Saudi company visit. Great strides being made towards the empowerment of women. Well, not in Saudi Arabia they're not, I'm sorry. Women are second-class citizens in Saudi Arabia. Rand Paul potentially to block the Saudi Arabia arms deal. U.S. Senator working on resolution of disapproval. I really hope that happens. Imagine seeing this headline shortly after 9/11 happened. U.S. removes Al-Qaeda from terror watch list. More beheadings to come. Well, that part of it's true. The terror group is sure to take advantage of this revelation. As crime dries up, Japan's police hunt for things to do. There was just one fatal shooting in the whole of 2015. Davos, school choice will not be mandated by Washington. Ultimate decision will be left with the states, not Washington. Is Trump in bed with the globalist elite? A discussion on whether Trump is with or against the globalists. London police launch free speech crackdown amid Manchester attack. Establishment telling public not to speak out against terrorism. That's right, we wouldn't want to offend the terrorists who run around blowing people up. We don't want to make them mad. Clint Eastwood says Dirty Harry wouldn't be made today for political reasons. Everyone's politically correct. We've lost our sense of humor. It's on the Daily Mail. This is only the beginning. Sick video shows ISIS jihadists make ominous warning after Manchester arena blast. Michelle Obama breaks Italy church dress code exposing bare shoulders. Appropriate dress code at Italian churches generally calls for shoulders, knees to be covered. I wonder why he didn't cover up his shoulders and his knees. Accomplices of Manchester suicide bomber discovered. Jeff Bezos lays out his vision for city on the moon, complete with robots. It's on GeekWire. MSNBC beats CNN and Fox News in weekly primetime ratings for the first time. First time in the network's 21-year existence. That's on Washington Free Beacon. Now, why do you suppose MSNBC beat CNN and Fox News all of a sudden? Video, Trump effigy held at gunpoint by Gazan protesters. Thousands of people went to the streets of Gaza to protest Trump's visit to Palestine. UN's North Korea investigators hit by cyber attack. UN Security Council's North Korea Sanctions Committee comes under sustained cyber attack. Traitorous UK government sides with Islamists and cracks down on free speech. UK patriots waking up to Muslim takeover. European listeners are fed up with Islamic terror. They might be fed up with it, but what are they going to do about it? Duterte declares martial law in Philippine island of Mindanao in response to militant attacks. First time Duterte has declared martial law since his election in June 2016. Could advanced probiotics soon treat Parkinson's disease? Gut bacteria may play a role in Parkinson's disease development. Well, having bad gut bacteria will certainly cause you to get sick, stay sick, and be more susceptible to all kinds of diseases and viruses and you name it. The secret knowledge you need to be healthy. Dr. McCullough outlines the steps necessary to stay healthy in the modern age. Paul plans to force a vote on the $110 billion Saudi defense deal. That's on the Hill. Appeals court decision keeps lawsuit against NSA surveillance alive. Our government shouldn't be searching the private communications of innocent people in bulk. That's on the Hill. Well, that's true, but the NSA is an unconstitutional agency that is not mentioned in the enumerated powers, so therefore they can do anything they want, and that's what they've been doing. And it's not just the NSA, it's any and all of the alphabet agencies. They're all unconstitutional. Hackers obtain personal information from over 16,000 Florida concealed weapons licensees. More than 450 social security numbers were compromised. Matt Drudge annihilates the competition in April. independently owned news aggregator, dominates latest news race. On the Daily Mail, half of American retail workers could be replaced by robots, chilling new study finds. Are irreversible end-time signs converging right now? The stage is set and the actors are in place, preparing to follow their script for what will shortly transpire. That's on Skywatch TV. Hitler applauds from hell as plans to build Aryan master race resurfaces around the world. The unholy grail of modern genetics is to, as some have put it, shape our own evolution. Also on Skywatch TV. Heavy rains are turning U.S. cornfields into lakes as the realities of the heavy spring downpours are pummeling U.S. grain farmers with soggy fields and threats of crop disease. It's on Bloomberg. And what do you suppose would be causing all of the flooding? Yes, that's right. Geoengineering and weather warfare. And some of it may or may not be done on purpose. But the more you geoengineer, the more torrential downpours and deluges you'll have, and droughts. You'll have both. Ultimately, it dries out everything, but you can still have the deluges in certain places. The classic quantum test could reveal the limits of the human mind. Measuring the state of one particle seems to instantly influence the state of the other, even if they're light years apart. That's on newscientist.com. On Survival Dan 101, the facts do not cease to exist simply because they're ignored. Don't be a sheeple. No one will feel sorry for you. The average sheeple does not learn how to be self-reliant because it's considered abnormal by the mainstream to be self-reliant. Cannibal caretaker. Elderly woman dies after getting allegedly gnawed to death. That's on exposingsatanism.org. I didn't even know that website existed. Alien movies seemed like a lot of fun until I found Satan was behind the script. The overt anti-life message is that the organisms that are generated from the human body are grotesque consumers who must be exterminated for the greater good of the community. That's on lifesitenews.com. From the Daily Mail, massacred as the music ended. Children and parents among 22 dead and 59 injured after suicide bomber traveled by tram before detonating ball-bearing bomb at Ariana Grande gig in Manchester. The stretch of California's iconic Highway 1 is buried in up to 40 feet of stone and dirt after mammoth landslide in Mud Creek runs into the ocean. And Steve says landslides can precede earthquakes as signal worldwide. Prophetic signal, big heads up. That's on the Daily Mail. I'm not sure I totally am in agreement with what he's saying there. I mean, it could just be a landslide. I'm not necessarily jumping on the California's going to get a huge, massive earthquake out of nowhere without any sort of warning whatsoever. I know a lot of people believe that, but I don't believe that because if you watch the earthquake update that I do, as well as Dutch Sense, obviously, there are always warning signs leading up to an earthquake. That's any sort of natural earthquake. Now, not a man-made earthquake necessarily. I mean, we do have tectonic weapons. We do have the ability with HAARP and other things to create earthquakes, of course. However, if you're just looking at pressure transferring from one place to another, there are always warning signs preceding any sort of large earthquake like that. Gerald Celente says globalists are going to collapse the world economy, but the scenarios that are truly difficult to prepare for are the ones that involve the total collapse of our society for any given period of time. That's on myDailyInformer.com. Get ready for the next big privacy backlash against Facebook. That's on Wired.com. 50 Shades of PO'd. Anyone who studies this stuff, the Illuminati, the Federal Reserve, the Freemasons, the money, the political side, the elite, Hollywood, all of it, anyone who goes really deep finds God, the Bible, and Jesus Christ. It's all about Him. Totally agree. As the Pacific Ocean food chain continues to deteriorate, these new scientific research studies will astound you. As we poison and change the world, are the animals of the world changing their nature? It's on All News Pipeline. Days of Noah. Demons are real, and we as Christians need to know how to deal with it. It's on Regano.com. Whoa! Bethlehem banner welcomes man of peace, but no pictures allowed. A banner apparently put up overnight in Bethlehem says the city of peace welcomes the man of peace, along with photos of Abbas or Abbas and Trump. That's on the Daily Crow. And don't forget to read Dane Wigington's new article on geoengineeringwatch.org. If you go to the website and then scroll down, it's the first article in the right-hand recent column. Geoengineering, a new warning of deadly ozone layer collapse from a former NASA engineer. I know many of you don't like and don't trust NASA. I don't either. However, this is really good information that we all need to know about. So make sure you don't miss Dane's article here. Okay, that would be all for today's Diamond Report. Thanks so much for listening and for watching and for sharing and for the nice comments that I've had. I appreciate all of that. And I'm enjoying making these shows. I'll continue to do it. I've seemed to have found a schedule that seems to work okay. I'm recording these late at night, and then I let my work files process while I'm getting a little bit of rest, and then in the morning, first thing I do is edit it, and then upload it to YouTube and Facebook. So that's why it's not posted as early as it was. There for a while, I was posting it at 7:30, 8:30 in the morning. Now it's more like, noon or lunchtime or whatever. And that's actually working out a little bit better for my schedule. I hope my frequent and regular listeners and watchers are okay with that. I know it's a few hours later, but at least the information is still getting out there. So hopefully people are okay with it. And I thank you again, and I will see you tomorrow.